Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I am continuing with the GH Python node that has gathered so many developers online in a private Facebook group. And I am still digging into some very interesting optimization scripts, but I'm trying to jazz them up a little more than where they were. And as you can see with this one, I'm pretty proud of it. The turntable is a nicely generated surface edit. So you can build these strange buildings, and I've got a simple loft on it, a post GH Python node system here that's just color coding. You get some interesting paneling down the sides as these quads are kind of trying to read and break up. So interesting little geometries. I'll turn that one off and just let it be here. And of course, I've inputted it into Revit, so I can go in and have a look at what exactly is happening. The script itself, I'm not going to share in full detail because I think you should buy the book. But what I've done is, you'll see here, I've tried to bring in as much as I can to make it interesting. I've got an interesting step factor here that if I start to slide that up, you'll see what happens within Revit and Rhino as I move that, and it runs fairly quickly. You get these really nice scapes in different cities, different towers that appear, and it really shocks it up pretty fast when you do that. And that's just step one. You can imagine where it goes when you go to step 2 and 3 and up. That's probably wouldn't need to be edited that high. I'll probably bring that down to probably a 2 only. And that could be an interesting step over as I move it. You can see you get these effects, and even at 2 it starts to break at a certain level of because of my thresholds. So I'll just leave it kind of small there. And then I've also brought in the threshold value of when it will split and slice and turn. Sorry, that's back onto my step. Here's the threshold. And you can see where you can pull it right back to where it was in all of its glory before you actually ended up splitting things in a threshold of 0 to 10 as a float, which I think is pretty interesting. I also have the ability to split it 1, 2, or 3, or even carry that up to 5. I think it starts to really slow down when I get to 10, so I'm going to bring that one down again to about a 5, maybe a 4. Oh, I really messed it up there. Let's bring that one back down to 0 and bring that one down. We'll push it up to a 5. And there you've got a nice effect of running that through, and you can see the effects of breaking that up and splicing it and getting all these really nice little angles. I'm going to keep it fairly low. The script doesn't, it's fairly fast moving. And then what I did was I added func X, func Y, func Z, and func U, because this is where I have a lot of fun with playing with subdivision formulas in a very similar to way of how I learned in processing through Daniel Shifting. Get a script and start to mess with it till you really figure it out. These functions I'm going to start saving as opposed to snippets in Grasshopper, which I have many, many of, and certainly my own. I'm not really into the C# as hard as I wanted to go. I'm still stuck in the GH Python node, which many people have said, you find your way back into C# because you originated in C++, C++, and things like that. But watch what happens as I play with this little funky data here. Really nice. And if you compare this to some of the, and I keep coming back to this, if you compare this to the tree data and dealing with relative item and relative items, this is a way that I can conceive of playing around in the Python node. And I've just played with the list numbers within here, list indices of what I'm playing with. And you see you have really good effects that with very simple integers of 0 to 3, you can really generate a variety of things. And of course, I could bring this data in at other times here, and I can bring it in at any point as I break this down into this data. So I'm starting to find the geometries very similar to working with, balls and straws and building these kind of surfaces. And then in the end, I take those surfaces from the original surface, which is kind of nice. Let me try and preview that original surface. There it is. The surface over here is the ground plane, but I like that I can see where that comes from before it's divided and split up. So it generates these other forms. You've got that very initial surface that is inspiring that. And if you change that initial surface, you can imagine how complex and crazy this gets as a fast-running script. So it's kind of like its own little panelizing node tool that I understand and broke down and make as creative as I want in 5 minutes. And I can play off of different colors, and I can grab the surface edits. There was something else in here that I thought I found very interesting if I selected it all. I was getting kind of a very interesting rolling surface. But either way, generating some very simple geometries using simple loft tools and projection tools, nothing uncommon in a postscript. There's my wife. And that's really where I want to go with this. I'll break it into full detail, but this GH Python group is really about this. People sharing their scripts, sending it to GH. If you want to go in and try and interpret these Rhino script syntax functions as Rhino.com and break them in the further detail because you want to program in C# and make your own plugins, then go right ahead. But I am so happy that I can stay with the most basic of these scripts and start to understand through the variables that are created through simple extend and remove and dealing with absolute value, but also dealing with appends on lists. You're producing a really nice geometries that to me are very simply conceptual exercises in architecture and what you may end up doing. So once again, the subdivide is going to have a major effect on that. I like to keep it kind of low. And I like to keep my tolerance, and I've actually set it to even numbers. I can't remember why I set it to even numbers instead of integers. What happens when I take it out of there and I'm able to control 2 or 3? I think you end up with these kind of areas that don't know what to do, and you get these sharp corners. So I'll just leave that on there, and maybe I'll just make a little note to myself, a note to self, scribble tool. I'll just say best with even numbers. And, it's just for me. But I'm not here to teach a way that somebody can do it. I mean, if you want to try and apply these scripts, go ahead. But it is about getting in here and having fun and building your own geometries, having it pop over to Revit as you go. And I really like some of these little methods of analyzing scripts. I'm going to do a little rail surface roof edit, and then I'm very excited to jump into meshes. We haven't even gotten to chapter 3 yet, and I've been playing with this for a few months, but I've been busy at work and I haven't been able to really go full detail on all this. But that's, in a nutshell, that's really what I'm doing, customizing these very interesting Python nodes to build these geometries, and you can see how they build upon one another as I go through this text. And I think what I'm going to do now is use these func XYZ and func U variables as much as possible, so I have this kind of style to what I'm kind of playing with and thinking about geometrically. Thanks very much for watching.